Welcome to the Chefofx podcast.
Yo, I feel like this is actually one of the few days I've actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
And actually said, wow, it's a beautiful day. Because yesterday was a beautiful day too. It's all up here.
Yeah.
But today I'm actually enjoying the day. And I'm just going to, I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
I put a lot of pressure, which is good. You know, it keeps you, at least for me, just keeps me not from being stagnant. Because I didn't take the regular route of life in terms of just going to college. And so it was just all me out here. So yeah, I try to keep myself going. But today was good. I enjoyed the day, not too much pressure. I'm just trying to find this balance, man.
Yeah.
And enjoy the journey. At least that's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. How was your day though?
Pretty good. So I started lifting. Lifted weights like back in January.
Okay,
with the
my
deadlift
specialty.
and the squat. Yeah, your specialty. That's
Indeed.
why I mentioned it. I started with the deadlifts and the squats. Technically, I started a year ago with calisthenics in a park.
Perfect. That's what I do. That's what I did today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I love using gymnastics rings. I'll set them up on the branch of a tree and just like zen out. And today was funny because I didn't really make it about sets and reps, this kind of move. It was just more about moving and enjoying the training. So I would just kind of hang there with two hands and just I had no music. I was just using one ring. I wasn't doing like a ring dip turnout.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was just like hanging there. Of course I did some stuff, but it wasn't no structure. It was just like a flow like this. Yeah. But continue. Calisthenics is...
Well, I did calisthenics. And I feel like my exercise journey was rebooted because I was locked up. Because like I ran track in high school and I was athletic pretty much my whole life, but I wasn't like a football player really. I wasn't really a basketball player. I was into individual sports. And then I just stopped basically. Yeah. I just started studying only. And then I ended up getting locked up and everyone of course is doing calisthenics with like drop sets or supersets because there's no weights.
And nothing else to really do but manipulate your body weight.
Yeah. And it's super like, I feel like, you know, there's a way in which you can get in tune with your body when you're starved for other things because you're like, hey, I'm getting a real response. Indeed. Like there's almost like even reading is more fun when there's nothing else to do. And you're like, oh, this is actually like interesting. No wonder people read all the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, people were just telling me, you know, hit the bar, meaning pull-ups. And I said, you know, I wasn't strong enough to even do a pull-up. And that's when I got it in my head, like, hey, I actually want to get good at this, you know? And then I did like a whole year. I was on Soylent at the time. I don't know if you've heard of this drinkable food.
Oh, is this the no
this
calorie?
This is a different one.
Oh, okay. Is it still like all your nutrients in one kind of thing? Indeed. You know, it's funny. I've talked to a girl about this. I asked this specific question. Is that doable? And her thing was... no, because your body still craves for that caloric density. Yeah. Like we need calories, like the actual
it has calories.
It has calories.
Yeah. They plan it out for a 2,000 calorie thing, but that's the beauty of it. You just drink more if you want more.
Okay.
So it's like if you take this much, then you'll get these nutrients and these calories.
Interesting.
But if you want to do more or less. So I programmed it for the protein content.
Wow. So that goes hand in hand with this guy who would say you can look him up online. His name is Noon Almond Raw. You know, a 15 to 1,700 caloric deficit, only eating nuts, grains, and like rices and stuff. And when it comes to these kind of things, I think in terms of what happens when you get healthy is just the elimination of fat. I think the act of being leaner, no matter what kind of diet you do, it will put healthier markers on the board. Does that make sense? Yeah. But at a certain point, I think you do need to just listen to your body. Listen to your body first. If, for example, you feel like you really need to eat some fish, go ahead and eat some fish. If you feel fine and this Soylent is working for you, then, you know, with this holistic lifestyle coach that I follow, he would say that is your medicine for that time. He thinks every food is a medicine. And you know, with this shit, bro, I just try not to get dogmatic about it because there's so much different shit. And it's just like, you know, what if I told you what I was doing right now, you'd be like, what the but it's working for me, and that's the medicine maybe I need for myself right now. Does that make sense?
And also there's, like what you were saying, there's the basics, and then there's the advanced stuff.
Yes.
And what a lot of people do is sometimes they're listening to advanced people. But those advanced people are doing things, they've already done the basics. And like I know, for instance, a lot of skinny guys who want to gain muscle pay a lot of attention to bodybuilders. But to pay attention to what a bodybuilder says about what they did, like when they were like you, might be more useful than what they're doing right now. Like what they're doing right now is probably advanced. Like those techniques might not even be, very useful for you.
Yes. Yeah. If you're not a good teacher, so this could be a bodybuilder. We all become teachers at one point. If you're a bodybuilder and you're not putting out, if you're not a good teacher, pretty much so, that just creates bad karma because now people are following what you say. And it could not be good for them. But if there's good teachers out there that, I follow this person and I got the results. So yeah, it just depends on who you talk to. Yeah, that's why I try to it's all about, no matter what, really, it's all about the fundamentals. Yeah. If you're not learning the fundamentals, you're not doing anything. So my biggest thing is form when it comes to any kind of training. Form first.
And I think form is like one of the metaphors in my life as a quasi-athletic dude, especially running track, because I ran hurdles, and it's a forms race.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like form to me is like the center of what I mean by like a chef principle. Yeah, where that metaphor is not just true for lifting. It's not just true for trying to be good at the piano. It's true for almost everything. Anything you want to get good at, anything at all. Yeah. At some point, there are mistakes that you can make. You can get sloppy. You can slack. You cannot do it fully. You cannot be fully involved, and that's why people can't build on top of the last layer. Yeah. But when you have good form, like the metaphor of like, hey, let me try to do everything strong with good form and focus on fundamentals. Yeah. That's one of those things that's just like, it's true for everything. Yep. Yep. But it's so obvious in sports and in athleticism that's like, you can see someone lacking, slacking, and you're like, yeah, that's what happens. That's human nature. Yes. We need to it's almost like, I told you I liked individual sports. When I hear the word form, I think of the battle against myself. Yeah. That's what it looks like when I'm losing that battle. Is that I'm, yeah, I'm trying to do the bench press in a weird way or something. I see. Yeah. And
you feel that.
You feel it, you could see it, and you can ignore it.
Yes. You can ignore it. You can ignore the pain
insensitive.
Teacher. Yes. I just said you can ignore the pain teacher. Yeah. That's what this guy that I follow says, like, the pain teacher is going to show up in your life in the term of like headaches, muscle pains. And if you don't take the time to listen to your body, then that's when, it'll really tell you something. Cause then boom, you try to bend down and my lower back, my lumbars is fucked. My shoulder just got fucked. It's because you were ignoring the signs. So that's why I try to instill more body awareness, form. And usually what strays us away from that is just this fast paced life. Instant gratification is just our attention spans. Even mine, like I can't work on a project sometimes without looking at my phone. I'm just like, no, I'm going to put 30 minutes on the clock. I'm going to zone the fuck out. And it's just like, our attention span suck these days. So that instant gratification thing and not being present. And that's my biggest thing right now is just being present when I lift, because you're training for life. You're not training because what happens when you get there? You want to stop training, bro? Right. You know what I mean? Right. So train for life. That's like one of the biggest things I've been trying to instill right now. I'm 26 right now. I'm sure, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but maybe it's what I went through life, but I haven't luckily like torn anything. I've read a lot of books on fitness. I've like taken the time to just like really just kind of educate myself. And I'm not saying I'm the best, but back to what you're saying, back to the symbol, the fundamentals. Yeah. The fundamentals, they spread out into anything. Yeah. So,
and just teaching those fundamentals and learning those fundamentals is so much of the battle.
Yes. Because form is a fundamental.
Form is,
Form is a fundamental.
I agree.
Yes.
That's crazy. School's about to start. Just one more example of what I mean by form being like a powerful metaphor just for me.
Yes.
Is what are the fundamentals of being a student? What does it look like to have good form? For me, one of the things I had to admit to myself just this past week is that I've had bad form. I've been cheating myself in a number of ways.
Yes.
That I didn't want to look at because I felt that it was making me weaker.
Indeed.
You know, but that I feel like that it keeps coming up in my life that, hey, you know, no matter where you get, there's always going to be some area in your life that you need to improve in order to move on to the next level.
Yeah.
And whenever I finally, you know, my ego's gone and I can finally look at it, most of the time what I see is somebody lifting with bad form. Me, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, oh, wow, no wonder I wasn't moving forward. Look at what I've been doing this whole time. I can't believe I didn't notice this whole time. But I feel like that's something that the idea of doing something correctly for life to me extends so much farther than than training. That I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like a lot of ideas connect sometimes when I'm in these podcasts.
Absolutely, yes.
And
having that awareness though is the starting point because we're all on this is the hero's journey.
Let me admit, just to admit my own sheepishness.
And yes.
Most of the time, I don't have the awareness.
Interesting. Well, it's there, but maybe not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm knocking what you're saying, but yeah, I totally feel that. And the hero's journey, like I just mentioned.
Hero's journey.
The hero's journey. We're all trying to. There's always something.
There's always something.
There's something.
There's always that next barrier. You figure out this one, you get to but it's never...
Indeed.
It's never just an open gate. There's always just the next thing. You've advanced to the next challenge.
Yes. And, you know, having that awareness, this oneness that you've spoken of with the symbol, when you look even further back, it kind of becomes like you just become the observer on a lot of things. And then you start looking at all the dichotomies of life and death, which is the biggest one. The breath, the in and out. And you realize, okay, well, I can continue to play this game and tell yourself, you know, deep down maybe it doesn't matter. Or you could, at the same time, play this other game where, yes, it does matter. It does matter to me. And I want to live this life. So the reason I mentioned that is because this is something I've been thinking about. The address between heaven and hell is in between your ears, in your head, in your mind. So, in terms of form, in terms of the things that are come up, it's how you manage those things, how you manage stress. For example, you said, you know, how do you be a good teacher? If you're present in what you're doing in life, you've been like, I don't think this is working. This is no bueno. I think I may need to start going to bed early, like make some kind of structure. And maybe that won't happen for a while, but something will happen in your life to be like, okay, this has to change. You know what I mean? And that's just the journey.
Well, actually, that brings me to something. So today I only really did two things.
Yeah, that's great.
One of them was I worked out. And I think my squat's getting a lot better because I'm one of the people who had lower back pain before.
Oh, perfect. Squatting is king, queen.
Yeah.
Squatting is everything.
It was bad enough to where I was going to do some squats last Monday. Lowered down, I said, no, I'm not going to mess up my back. I'm just taking the whole week off. And then I did it this week and everything was fine.
Indeed.
And I upped the weight and it was fine. So.
Perfect. And let me say right now, whether you want bigger arms, bigger shoulders, bigger traps, you need to do squats. Because it produces that hormonal effect. It actually makes you produce more testosterone, which will actually allow you to put on muscle mass. So you can't just be going in there upper body. Of course, do it, you know, but squatting is the most primal, one of the most global tension throughout your whole body. Getting into a squat is everything. So we don't squat enough. You know, since grade school, they've been making us sitting down in a restricted position, a restriction of blood flow. So good job for squatting. I'm glad I didn't have to say it. You know, squatting is key.
Well, that was the weakness that I saw in the jail. That people were building their upper bodies, but because they didn't have the weights
to squat.
Yeah, some people were squatting. Some people were squatting, and some people ran stairs. But that was one of the big weaknesses in most people's physique is their legs. They just weren't really challenging their legs.
Yeah.
and you have to do so many squats body weight to come to the equivalent of just a weighted squat that it's there's no comparison.
Or people getting jacked though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I saw two things happen that were like crazy. One of them was a super skinny guy, and the other one was a fat guy.
Okay.
But there was a super skinny guy who just committed to eating a lot and working out, and
caloric surplus.
Yeah, he was never big, but he was like ridiculously cut within like 3 months, like P90X. But the fat dude was even crazier. This guy was like 6'3".
He already had the muscle.
He might have already had the muscle, but he was a part of a group that would work out every day, mandatory, doing like some insane number of burpees. That's all they did. He was off the clock doing sit-ups, off the clock doing pull-ups.
Wow.
And I saw this guy, and I knew him when he was fat.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, keep it up, I guess. But I remember at some point I said, wait a minute. Like you're a different person. Like you're a completely different human now.
Yup.
Yeah. So his name was Grande. Shouts out to Grande. But
hey, Grande. So what I was going to mention about that is this is one of those advanced things, past the fundamentals. What you just mentioned were two people who obviously had two different physiologies. If you look online, they call this the ectomorph, the mesomorph, and the endomorph. The gentleman who was more prone on getting bigger, Grande. Yeah. He probably had that muscle mass under that fat. And that's kind of what so you're never just one body type. It's kind of like a spectrum. You just have the qualities. So he was more on the endomorph type, right? He had that muscle mass. His thing was calories for sure. And the fact that he was doing burpees, that's more like cardio. Yeah. You're jumping and getting on the ground doing a push-up. That's a lot of like, a
lot of those guys were fat. That's what was weird about it to me.
And that's
I was like, dude, you guys are like, why are you still so fat?
Yeah.
And you know what Grande said? The spreads.
The spreads? What is the spreads?
The spreads are like they're like a jail delicacy where you take a top ramen soup and some chips and a bunch of other salty sweet things and you mix them all together to make some weird like super processed food that is seen as like the function of the spread is more important than the content.
Okay.
Which is that it's a communal meal.
Indeed.
So if someone hands you a spread, that means that they consider you a part of their team.
Wow. Well, don't be eating too much of that spread. You're going to get lean.
Yeah, that's the thing. He said he ate the first one, and then he stopped eating them. Because he said, hey, I'm a part of the team already. I don't need to keep doing this.
Yes, exactly.
I'm trying to lose weight.
Exactly. So back to what I said about the calories, that quantity. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he said, I don't eat the spreads, man. That's the only difference.
Perfect.
But that's not true. He was being modest. He also was putting in work off the clock.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can't out-eat a training regimen, though. If you can do all the work all day, but if you don't take in less energy than your body needs, that thermodynamics equation definitely becomes a thing. But for your other friend who was in a caloric surplus, he ate, right?
Yeah, he ate. Yeah.
9 times out of 10, what the ectomorph side needs more is, that caloric surplus. Not the bulking that you probably, the mainstream bulking, like eat whatever you want. Because here's the thing. You have to be insulin sensitive, meaning not spiking your insulin all the time by eating to put on muscle mass. So you do need to be in a caloric surplus, but don't eat foods that may cause inflammation, i.e. dairy. Don't eat bread just all the time. Eat whole foods. The body has a lot of wisdom. Just let it do its thing. You know what I mean? But perfect. Yes, that is. So training for your physiology is, if you know how to, can do wonders for you. Yeah. I'm on the endomorph side. I get muscle mass a little bit more easier than most people, but if I don't watch my diet, I've never been lean. I've never seen all my abs. And this is like a goal that I want for my life. I want to see like all my abs. I want to get cut. Not stupid like, God damn, this nigga's not eating, bro. Like, what is happening? No, I'm not trying to do all that. I'm just trying to.
A lot of girls tell me that that's not really what they're looking for anyway a lot of the time.
Fuck the women. I'm doing it for myself.
That's right. Fuck it. Yeah, it's.
No. I think I know. Some part of me doesn't feel the latest because Dennis be like, damn, no, he got the ass though.
You know how I feel about that? I think that it's good to have options.
Indeed.
I think that it's good to not do something specifically, because you want to be attractive, but it's good to just maintain it so that you always have options.
Yes, it's nice to have options.
Which is, it's a kind of in between thing of like, well, I'm not doing this for you.
Nah.
But in general, it would be nice if I was put together, you know. So
two things. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the ego, but I wanted to see if you had any more questions on like training and maybe people have like basic.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion? So when I started deadlifting, I was afraid that I was going to hurt my back. So I did the sumo. Do you have any strong feelings about the sumo versus the conventional?
The sumo is safe. What the sumo does, it reduces the range of motion in the deadlift. So the range of motion is how far you have to lift it off the ground. You know, it's not so much the variety of stuff. It's more about your consistency and intensity.
And especially because I'm still beginner. I mean, I stopped at the end of the school year and I started building up over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm still not at the point where I stopped.
I see.
So I'm still not really pushing my limit.
I see.
It's just so. But in the long run, I was thinking, oh, if it's better for your back, then I'll just go with that one.
I see. Yes. Yeah. Well, it is about protecting the spine first. It's always about protecting the spine. In terms of which one's better, there's not really one that's better as long as.
But here's the thing, I do two now.
You do two what?
I do the Romanian and the sumo.
I see.
I do the Romanian as like a supplemental thing, but I don't go hard. It's like medium reps.
I see. Yeah. What I would focus more, I would actually focus on squats more.
Squats. I do squats too.
Yeah.
And I do heavy and I do some medium.
And you feel
squats.
safe off of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the deadlift.
Because I'm never too heavy on the squats.
Right. Yeah. A set between 6 to 12 is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the deadlift, yeah, it doesn't really matter. The conventional is nice. If you can do a conventional deadlift, it's a pretty good representation of the squat, and it always comes back to squatting. If you can do a healthy deadlift with your spine neutral, shoulders and scapular retraction, you know, it's all legs in the deadlift. None of your back should be working. So when you see people, you know, 1,000 pounds, 800 pounds, they're not using their back. It's their legs that's like bringing them up. You want to feel like you're jumping, in the conventional deadlift at least. And if you can do that, maintain a neutral spine position and get into a deep squat when your feet are a little bit closer together, which is pretty much a conventional deadlift, you should be all right. I can show you videos of me. I'll deadlift like maybe four or five. And it's like, I'm telling you, before I even go down to lift the bar, I bring my shoulders back as much as I can.
Yeah.
I'm going to scapular retraction because it's all about protecting that spine. But in terms of, you know, which one's better, this and that, you know, just really enjoy the training. Train for life. Going back to that.
Yeah. I also don't bench press. I only do dips.
Nah, you don't need to. Yeah. Dips are great.
Yeah.
Oh, it blow up your tries. There's ways you can make your push-up harder by just kind of leaning forward. Make sure your elbows are close to you when you do your push-up. Don't flare your elbows out to the side. That's the biggest thing a lot of people do. What I tell clients is strength is about how much tension you're able to generate throughout your whole body, not so much how big your muscles are. So that's why I like calisthenics. It doesn't put you in a seated position. You're utilizing your whole body. Builds body awareness. Gets you freaking shredded if you're honest with yourself and the intensity of your workouts. And yeah, anything that doesn't make us sit down these days is better. Honestly, anything that just doesn't make you sit down, because it's really, it's bad. It's a lot of blame for a lot of the problems we have. It's a restricted position, a restriction of blood flow. Blood has oxygen, nutrients. Blood has prana, what the Indians call like life force, you know. And something that I've observed looking at health is a lot of these diseases stem from a lack of blood flow. So when you see like a stroke, a heart attack, a brain aneurysm, arthritis, tendonitis, these are the foundation. The foundation of these diseases is a lack of blood flow, inflammation.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother topic, but
okay.
Fundamentals.
Well, actually, let's switch the topic.
Yeah.
So I like to go over some philosophical things because I think they're very connecting, and everybody has something to say about them. But the first one is a good life. So what do you think goes into or is in your concept of a good life for you?
Wow. A good life. For me? Well, I think... So this is me I feel like to answer this question, I have to absorb some ego.
Yeah.
In terms of like, okay, I'm a male.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can tap into the nature of I want freedom. So what freedom looks like in this environment is having financial freedom to do what you want.
Right.
So the reason I say that is I feel like your environment dictates a lot of your ambitions, your dreams, and just how you do life. You know what I mean? So because I'm in these circumstances and I'm navigating through life and I'm not going to commit suicide as I'm here, I'm just going to do what I love to do, which those two things are, make music, dance, train. And I'm not going to think about the money, retirement. I probably should. What gets measured gets managed.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I'm trying to get back to the fundamentals. And if I can just be present more, I think I would enjoy that. If I could have healthy relationships more, I think I would. That's a good life. Giving out a good ripple effect.
Yeah.
So in terms of, when I shop, I try to reduce my carbon footprint. And that makes me feel good. I feel like that's a good life. I don't buy plastics. I mostly buy in bulk. I try to reduce my me as much as I can. So yeah, I try not to be a bigger consumer. Yeah, and it kind of hurts because like the environment's in a crisis. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm a hippie, blah blah blah, but in terms of something like food, I feel like I should know how to grow my own food in a sufficient way, and I feel like I can't say I know how to do that. And there's people out there in the blazing sun, like bringing me food. Yeah, I mean, farmer to the plate, but you know what I mean. And so I'm just so thankful for that. And then when you buy, kind of going off topic though, but like supporting someone who's about that life too, kind of creates that ripple effect, a good life. Yeah. But minimalism, good life for me. Yeah, they say more money, more problems. Yeah. But I don't know. How does Elon Musk feel? We gotta ask him. But then you look at Steve Jobs, had all the money in the world. A lot of people talk shit about him. Did he enjoy his life? Probably. He had all the money in the world, and what did he die of? I think it's
some kind of cancer. I think.
Okay, and then so it can't be financial. Yeah. And then looking at Robin Williams, this and that. Yeah, this reminds me of something I heard in a previous podcast that something about. They were talking about millennials and saying how like we just want to be famous and it's all about
it's because of social media. That's not fair. Yes. For us, it's so much easier to be out there that of course people are going to go for it. Right. It's not like they got to climb 1,000 mountains. All they have to do is take a picture of themselves or do something stupid on the internet, and then you're going to be recognized. Yeah. So to say that everyone wants to be famous, I think is unfair because now, why am I so sensitive about this?
The sheep.
Well, because I remember the origins of this podcast. So I was, I lived in Alabama for 3 years. And most of my friends from high school to Alabama, I went to college for 3 years there. So a lot of my friends live in Alabama or they were involved in that world.
Wow. I'm from Florida.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And anyhow, I ended up having a mental health breakdown. I came back to California and ended up getting arrested. I got out of jail, and I'm in a city. I don't know anybody. My family's from Pasadena. I was in San Jose at the time, and all my friends were in Alabama. And I was talking to people around me, and we were all like, everyone that I was in contact with had like a criminal record. They had a drug addiction issue, no job, most of them, face tattoos, like a whole different demographic than anyone I've ever been around, other than the jail world.
What part of California were you in?
I was in, San Jose. So
San Jose.
Silicon Valley area. But it was because I had been socialized into that criminal addiction world. Wow. Right? So I was living in a halfway house. So when I was talking to people, I was, just being myself. Hey, what do you think about life? Same thing. I would ask these, what's a good life to you? It's actually an interesting question. If someone just got off of heroin, right? And I said, wow, how can I share this with my old friends? Now, I could email them, right? Or guess what? We're in a world where you can upload to a central thing, and whoever wants to tune in, they can tune in if they want.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Now, someone who's making the argument everyone wants to be famous would look at that and say, see, here's an example. Here's a kid living in a halfway house talking to people who are addicted to whatever, who wants to be famous. But that wouldn't be accurate. I'm using a medium that didn't exist in their time.
Yes.
To do something that anyone can understand. Connect with my own friends, you know what I mean? People who'd never heard of anything like this.
Yes.
So I think the biggest difference with social media and a lot of other things that we have access to is that you can kind of accidentally be famous.
Yeah.
Because when I'm talking to you, I also share it with everybody else who wants to know.
Yes.
That's possible.
Yes.
I have that option. I could have sent the email. But what if a third person wants to come in? That's a third email I have to send. What if a fourth person? If I upload it, that's one thing I have to do.
Yep.
And now anyone who wants to tune in, people I didn't even expect called me up. Hey, I loved episode 13.
Yep.
Why? Because I'm using the new platform to not only achieve the goal I want, but open it up.
Yeah.
This
Why
is the
not?
way of being open. The openness is something everybody understands.
Yes.
So instead of saying, hey, this is about fame, why not say this is an openness thing? People are sharing things.
Yes. This is love.
Yeah. It's a way of showing love that's natural for us because
Boom.
we we grew up with it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that it's just a misunderstanding between the sharing and the promoting. I think there's a difference. I think when you're trying to sell somebody something, that's one thing. But if you're saying, hey, you have the option and to look at this and you have the option not to look at it.
No strings
That's a
attached.
different thing, but it's on the same platform.
Yeah.
So it's not obvious that it's a different thing.
Yeah.
You know? But I think that there's two camps, not just one. There are people who want to be famous.
Yeah.
But there are also people who like to share.
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah, and sharing is a very natural human thing. It's not a failure of character.
No,
you know?
yeah, I think it goes back to like why should that be a problem? Yeah. And this is a man who, he was very technical back in his day. When I heard this podcast, he was a guy who was very good with his hands in terms of technology in like the 80s or something. Back in the days where they didn't run credit cards when he ordered pizza. Apparently he pranked the school by ordering a bunch of pizza with a fake credit card, but they don't even run the credit cards until Friday, and he almost got expelled for that. So he was living in that time.
Oh wow.
And he was like, yeah, people don't. His argument was like, people don't want to work hard and get dirty, and it's just like, people don't really have to. 1,000 diehard friends is really all you need to live a decent life. 1,000 diehard fans who would like support you, buy your shit, little stuff like that. Like how much, if everybody wants to be famous, why? Because everybody wants money. If we're thinking about the fundamentals again, if you want money and how much money do you need, it just, all these little variables come into play. But
crowdfunding too. People don't even have to be your friend.
Oh yeah.
You could just say, I want to build this. And if you think that should exist, then help me out.
Yeah. It's a beautiful time we live. It's just a weird time.
Yeah.
I've heard Joe Rogan say that in his stand-up. It's just a weird time. And it kind of is because everything is just so out there.
I have a controversial view on the weird times, but
oh, please.
I sum it up with PC culture. Now.
What's PC?
Just, I forgot what it really stands for. Politically correct. But basically, political correctness can be, for me, I come at it more from like an intellectual point of view, but political correctness can be a problem if it gets in the way of clarity. So it can be, you can create a runaway effect where you can intentionally make things really, really confusing so that nobody can have any discussions anymore. So a simple example of that is you just change out variables. So if I say every time I see a bike, I'm going to call it a blue haha. Right? And then everyone starts to catch on, and then you say, well, blue haha really is rhubarba. You can set up a situation and you can say, and by the way, if you say the wrong one, then you're fucked.
Ooh.
And then it's like, okay, well, how in tune are you with the people who are changing the thing?
Yes.
And if you're not, then you're just left in the dust. So then it can get to a point where people stop riding bikes in the real world because of some shit that was in the fake world.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh man, they switched out too many of the variables. Now it's like,
shit.
now like, you know, this thing was okay, now it's not. This thing was not, now it is. And you're like, all right, I guess you just have to keep up.
Yeah.
But
for some reason, that reminds me of the flat Earth theory. Flat Earthers, dude, that's powerful though. Especially the way the mind works. Like,
it's tricky.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I mentioned, Chefofx, it has something to do with the relationship between creation and logic. Mm-hmm. So when I did go to school, I was really into logic. Mm-hmm. So logic pops up in a lot of different ways, but
not the rapper.
Well,
Yeah.
one of them is in math and like the physical sciences, like chemistry and physics. Another one is computer science. Another one is the law. Mm-hmm. So for whatever reason, when I was younger, I used to think, what is the connection between these things? What is the
fundamentals?
Connection? Yeah. Why is it like people use the word logic to this is logical. What does that mean? What does it mean for something to be logical? Mm-hmm. And there's my summary of the answer after all my quests is that it deals more with deterministic cause and effect than anything else. Yeah. So that if this happens, this other thing happens. Mm-hmm. That's, to me, the fundamentals of what logic is.
Yes. This reminds me, I can't say I made up this theory, but I kind of came to this conclusion of myself that, you know, no one has ever been able to prove that something happens because of something else.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a tricky thing.
That's a tricky thing. So even if we say to this specific person, depending on who you are, that's the thing about it. Let's say, obviously, you know, we put the seeds in the ground and we see the plant grow. And, you know, we have the sun and this is why it's happening. But some guy in France wants to say, no, it's because I fart at 2 p.m. That's why the plants grow. And for his life, for his mind, who's to say he's wrong?
Yeah, if you couldn't run an experiment, who's to say?
Even if you saw the experiment just for this individual, what I'm saying, if he believes that, you know, obviously this guy is a little bit insane, but because the mind is so powerful, those little variables can just really fuck you up.
They can really fuck you up.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that when we're born, for whatever reason, there's some things that seem to be more natural than others. Yeah. And that's one of the things.
Blame the parents.
Yeah. Well, not the parents necessarily, but like almost like a human nature problem.
Ooh, primal?
Yeah, where really let me put it like this. If you don't, like I know some people, to get back to the weightlifting, some people say, I don't lift weights because I don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right?
Please try.
It's a bad argument because it's assuming that it's easy to do, that you could do it with just by simply starting lifting weights. That would all automatically lead you to looking like, you know, super muscular. But so by default, you're not going to be that muscular. No. But if you put in a lot of work, then you are. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the way that logic is for us. Yes. That by default, we're not really that good. Right. But if you put in a lot of work, maybe you'll get better. Maybe. You know. Yes. Well, you will get better, but maybe you'll get to the point where you're good enough to do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And anyhow, I think that a lot of the PC culture, or a lot of the problems I have with it, most of it I agree with. I think that it's we should be sensitive toward other people's experiences in general. A lot of the things
that's fundamental.
Yeah, there's no way around that.
Yes,
but that does not mean that every claim is equally, you know, everything should be pursued with the same amount of. Let me put it like this. It doesn't, the person who's having a problem is not necessarily the person who's going to solve the problem. The solution to the problem is going to match the structure of the problem. So if you're having a problem and you propose a solution, just because you're the one having the problem doesn't mean that your solution is the best solution.
Yes.
And that to me is something that comes from the world of logic.
Absolutely.
That it's like, listen, I don't expect everybody to understand, but it's a puzzle piece thing.
Yep.
You know, you may be the person who wants to put together the puzzle, but if you don't have the right pieces in the right place,
boom,
then it's not going to work.
Nah, bro.
Everything's got to fit at the end of the day.
Bro,
So-
exactly. Don't ever get dogmatic. Yeah. That's why I was, as a person who's a learner, a teacher, a student, you know, I try to be both,
Yeah.
the chef and the sheep. Back to the symbol.
There's no way around it.
I think once you stop being open to perspectives, to that sensitivity, that's when you start dying.
Yeah.
Because now, you know.
I think that's the real challenge. The real challenge is, how do we solve the hardest problems while being sensitive?
Yes.
Because I think right now, what people are saying is, let's be sensitive at the cost of potentially not solving the problem, or let's solve the problem at the cost of being sensitive.
Yes.
And there's got to be some way of doing both within reason. You know, there's got to be something. But unfortunately, to even suggest anything other than whatever's popular right now is just. That's one of the downsides to me against the PC culture.
Yes, yeah.
There's
Doing
no.
what's
It's
popular.
like these are the three options. Well, what about that fifth option over there? No. We said these three.
Yep.
It's like, all right, well,
Yep.
you know, it is what it is.
It's a tough challenge. This reminds me of a book, which was probably one of the best books I've read in my entire life. It's a very short book. It's helping with all relationships. I think everyone would benefit from this kind of book. It's that kind of book.
Yeah.
It's called Nonviolent Communication, the basics as I know and use them. I don't remember the author, but if you just type in nonviolent communication, it's a 95-page book, and it just really puts things into perspective and one of the most fundamental things we do every day, which is communicate.
Yeah.
You know, giving the space to someone to speak their mind, being present with them, have that sensitivity that you talked about, you know. So yeah, that reminds me of that really freaking good book, Nonviolent Communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another day. What happens after we leave this experience? You know, we're living, we get to like 96, and then boom, something happens. Then what's going on there?
Are you talking about death?
Yes.
So it's funny. This guy, Rudolf Steiner, this is the last thing that I've heard when someone brought up death, is that the first thing that happens when you die is that you get surrounded by people just like you.
You told me that before.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I keep thinking about it. I'm like, what?
How many of them?
Right? And then when did I get out of that? So that's like the conclusion I came from it. Like, it would be just the way you got before you came here. That oneness. You were everything, but you forgot, apparently.
Yeah.
You forgot that you are the Brahman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
there's no word for it, though. That's the thing about Zen. And then the absolute release, the void. Yeah.
So before we got here, we must have been dead, right?
We must have been dead. Yeah.
By our current definition of death,
Right.
we weren't in this form.
No.
Yeah.
And death doesn't have to mean. It doesn't have to be something we don't put death in a box, because you don't try to.
We put dead people in boxes.
Exactly. So don't imagine death as like blackness. No, you're everything.
I don't even think a sleep is blackness.
No. Man, sleep is another thing. How do you feel about dreams? What do you feel like dreams are?
Yeah.
I'm so over what people's interpretations are. You know, Carl Jung, one guy that I've kind of listened to, he says that dreams are a snapshot of your future. I'm like,
I hope not.
Shit. What I do sometimes is, maybe if I see like a symbol, I'll like look it up, maybe get some interpretation. For example, I saw a snake in my dream. It was just a snake. It was slithering. It looked pretty big. Just a snake. I looked it up, and you can type in like snake totem and what the snake means. Infinity, the death of something, the restarting of new. A lot of wow. But it's just like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
What is my snapshot in the future of that? So
I used to dream all the time.
wow.
Now I don't. I know that I'm dreaming, but it's nothing like it was before. I started taking medications.
Wow.
Yeah. Like maybe a couple of years back, and I think they might have fucked with my dreams.
Okay. Are you on them now?
Yeah.
And you're not dreaming.
I am dreaming, but I just don't remember. Like, I dreamed last night,
Right.
but that was because I was out late and I don't know, I had some weird energy.
So are you saying this is like a lucid dream?
No, I just remember that, you know what it probably is? I always used to dream when I napped.
Yes,
and
me
I
too.
take less naps now. So maybe my dreams are the same.
I see.
But I mean, pretty much a guarantee if I wake up and go back to sleep, I'm dreaming.
Indeed. Well, yeah. But also, if you're talking about any kind of information from the pharmaceutical industry, and knowing the pharmaceutical industry, they're not for the people or their environment, it may be doing some kind of blockage to some kind of neurotransmitter that produces dreaming.
They block the dream part of my brain.
Oh man!
I just had a dream last night.
Yeah. People say smoking weed prevents dreaming, and I'm just like,
not for me. I hated dreaming when I was high. That was really scary.
Just too vivid.
Too much. I just wanted to be awake. I just woke back up. So I just waited out.
Oh man! So do you? I feel like at certain times you have those dreams that it's nice to believe that your dream is real. Because for example, I make music. I want to be an EDM producer / DJ on like a relatively big scale. I'm not trying to be Diplo, blah, 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 and I would have dreams of like being in a studio or visions of like performing. I'll see my name on like a flyer, just these little subconscious things. And do you feel like dreams have any connection with like the outside, the waking world, the waking quote unquote waking world? And I would like to believe like, yes, it's going to happen. This is on me, bitch. I don't give a fuck. Because it's just like, so how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like it has a connection between the waking world, any kind of connection?
Yes. I think the connection is that whatever's in your dream was in your head. And the things that were in your head in the waking world somehow creeped into your dream. So maybe like a subconscious thing, but it involves your real life.
Right.
On some level. So
that reminds me of these new kind of eating principles that I just adopted. When I started this regimen, I had a dream that I met the guy who created it. And I'm taking it, I was like, whoa. And like his wife had like a Jamaican accent, weird shit in the gym. I never met his wife. And I'm thinking like, oh, maybe this is a sign that, it wasn't a bad dream. I felt pretty like, whoa, I'm meeting this guy. So I'm thinking like, can I take that as a sign as like, maybe this eating regimen is for me, like this specific type of way of living. So.
Well, I support my thesis because, see, the guy, the eating regimen that's already in your head, and then it shows up in your dream.
Right, right.
So it's just kind of an extrapolation from wherever you already were to the next point.
Indeed. It's funny, though. I've never been in a studio, really. I've never been in front of... I've done, like, we're in Davis, California, Whole Earth Festival.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yes, I've performed, at those, and that was pretty fun, but never, like... like I want to do festies, just chill, do like a festy, and like, that sounds like the life. I don't want to make music into my job, of course, but I like to be able to create a demand enough that if I go somewhere, people are going to come out and see me, and that's really all it is.
That's how I feel about a lot of stuff.
It's
that it would be cool to travel and have fans in a random spot.
Right.
That'd be so cool.
So here's the thing that I wanted to ask. I've been asking a lot of friends this. Location. Drake says, you can do it from where you're at. But let's say, so I'm from Florida, where my mom lives in Florida. It's a pretty rural area, right? Man, I'm thinking like, I could just post up at my mom's house 24/7 music. Just try to perfect the craft, put out shit. Eventually I'll get noticed. Or I could try to like split my energy and do half. So right now I'm living in Davis, California. I'm also a personal trainer, which is not the worst job you could have. Mind you. But I'm still like splitting this energy. And one of my friends will say, it's like, yo, you're freaking California, bro. That's where opportunity is.
No, people say, I understand.
So
that.
My question is like, what do you feel like matters more? I guess it's a little bit different from maybe any kind of artist, whether you're drawing, music, like how do you feel location
I think
plays
you gotta get
role?
Cameras.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think about the power of the internet.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I hear you on the location, but the internet,
Honestly, I think that if you work hard to have a presence over a year on the internet, it pays off. If you work hard, if you really try to do everything right, it'll pay off.
Yeah. So you're
no
saying,
matter where you are.
no
In
matter
fact,
where you are,
the weirder the fucking place, the better for the internet.
Yo,
For the internet, Florida's way better than here.
Yo, that's what's. Oh, yo, that closes the deal right now.
I think.
I
but
like
don't-
that argument.
Well, here's how I felt.
Yeah.
When I was starting the podcast, somebody said, "You really want to start a podcast at this halfway house?" And I said, my gut instinct tells me that this is the best possible fucking place.
Yeah, get dirty.
Because even if I moved to the burbs, I still started here.
Yep.
So I came up from here
Yep.
to get to the burbs. So it's like, it doesn't matter.
Hey.
It's the real deal.
Exactly. We out here, bro.
Yeah,
out here.
exactly. Wherever you are, I think it's actually better. I think it's actually better to be from a place where people from here don't really know that much about it, because then it's kind of exotic, you know?
Indeed.
So if you're doing internet shit, I don't know how big people are on the internet in Florida, but it's got to be less than Davis, because Davis is like, we're close to Sacramento or close to San Francisco.
Right.
So I think there's that exotic thing here's a good example. If you were in the Himalayas, that would be way better.
Yeah.
Doing what you want to do.
Ooh, that
so
sounds
I think
beautiful.
that's kind of the way that I'm thinking about it. Is
Right.
like I'm thinking crazy wild, like you're in the Amazon jungle, Himalayas,
Ooh,
you're in the middle of sub-Saharan Africa or something, but like you're doing stuff that appeals to people here.
Yep.
That would be cooler than being here doing shit that appeals to people here. But the reverse is true. If you're here and you're doing shit that appeals to people over there, then that's dope.
Yo, yeah, making shit in Australia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Australia is always my go-to. By the way.
Yep.
My go-to is like, yo, if I could go to Australia and people fucking recognize the sheep or something. Oh, dude, that would be raw.
Oh, that sounds amazing. It's funny. I've actually worked with an artist in Australia. He does dance hall, reggae. Shout out to SK Simeon. Yeah, he lives in. Yeah, I thought he's from Uganda, lives in Australia. He's worked with Machine Drum. Machine Drum is an electronic artist who mostly does electronic stuff, beautiful stuff, a lot of beautiful patterns. That's like my nearest. That's my nearest attempt to get out there because in terms of EDM music, it's pretty much nationwide. But when you get to like the subgenres, quote unquote, like who likes the dirty stuff though? Like who likes the dubsteps and the traps and the very heavy bass aggressive shit? That's kind of where I'm leaning towards.
Okay.
I like house. I'm not saying I won't. I like to have variety as an artist, but it always goes back to the 1,000 fans. Wherever that usually starts is where it's gonna kind of compound on itself. That's what I've noticed in terms of like any industry. Like the things you do just kind of like layer up like an onion, and then you look back and like, oh shit, I'm just kind of riding this wave.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So if you start building one fan in Australia, then another one comes and another one, and then boom.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but the internet though.
The internet is fucking insane.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. Argument. I like yours though, because that makes me want to just like go home. All right, I'm gonna post to my mom's house. I'm gonna just freaking work on music. No job. No, she wouldn't let me do that.
But if you have the skill of personal training, you can always have a job as a
yeah. And that's the fun thing about living out here, because if I put myself in my mom's house, that's gonna be a lot of like pressure I'm gonna put on myself. Like I gotta be structured with it. I gotta give myself X amount of time, this and that. Like I'm not just gonna like wing it. So out here I have to be more accountable to myself because I am on my own. And I feel like that's good too. Because now, I'm learning to be an adult. I'm not putting so much pressure on music. I can also just have another freaking thing, which is personal training, which is I think kind of rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And it probably enhances the music.
Yes. And I'm not bringing any girls to my mom's house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
So. No, I understand that. Which brings us to the last one. What is a good relationship?
An honest one.
An honest one.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Whether it's your lovers, friendship, there's an honest one. There's too much shit going on these days. And I don't have to think about that. I don't have to like just being present and honest.
Yeah.
What else could there be? If you don't want to be where I'm at, then you can just walk away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was in an interesting little dilemma this summer because on one hand, I've been talking to this girl for like over a year, and we had a little agreement. Boo boo boo, blah blah blah. Long story short, she broke the agreement.
Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Now, I thought, you know what, man? Fuck this bitch.
Shit.
But then I thought about it again. And I said, hey, you know what? Let me try to understand where this person is coming from.
Oh.
And it turned out it was much more complicated than my original reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that, I said, well, I could be dogmatic about this.
Ooh.
Which is how I felt at the time, which is, again, fuck this bitch. But then, I thought, what would it be like if I tried to carve out what I called the road to redemption?
Wow.
What would that even look like? And what I had to admit to myself was that there was, at the present moment, there was no road. But also, I don't like that. I don't like that there's no way, there's no opportunity. I'm not giving somebody any kind of chance to correct things, because I think if I were treated like that, I wouldn't like it. And if I violated an agreement, I shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. But under the certain circumstances, it was a little messy. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, let me think about, what I would do and how I would handle it. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I started thinking about it, I realized that this person was actually doing a lot to kind of keep things together, and that there was a lot that I could have done to help things on my end. So then I said, okay, well, let me, instead of lashing out, let me try to be understanding, and let me try to fix everything on my end. Because I didn't realize I was being sloppy. Mm-hmm. But it turned out...
We all get sloppy.
It turned out I was doing a lot of stuff too. Mm-hmm. And I said, let me try to do this, and just try to be a reasonable person here, a kind person. And it ended up working out really well, man.
A lot of attraction.
To the point where there are aspects of our relationship now that are better than they've ever been before. Mm-hmm. And I thought that it was a very weird time for me, because the whole road to redemption thing had flipped on me. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've spent a lot of my life complaining that other people have not considered some kind of a path so that you could get from a bad position to a good position. Mm-hmm. I've seen people do this over and over and over again in my life, where they've said, a silly example is, who drank the last bit of milk? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't me. And they said, well, you did it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't me. And I said, wait a minute. I didn't even, you know what I mean? But they said, nah, from now on, you never get to fucking drink my milk ever. And I'm like, yo, is there any chance I get to show you that wasn't even me that did that shit? Mm. And now that's me, Now, it wasn't exactly like that, but
yeah, I hear you.
I just felt like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can use this as an opportunity for growth. And because of that, I think that, when I think about a good relationship, it is more, I almost want to say it's a little bit more nuanced than it was 2 months ago, where I was a hard line guy. Mm-hmm. Line. This is the fucking line. That's
line.
It. You fucking cross this line, bitch. It's over.
It's over. I hate you for life.
I hate your ass for life.
Dead.
But now
Fatality.
I feel like if you cross the line, I want to find out why you crossed the line. Mm-hmm. And there's some reasons that I think are redeemable, and there are other reasons that aren't redeemable. Mm-hmm. And also the consequences of you crossing the line matter to me now. Mm-hmm. So, it could go this way or that way. If it goes this way, okay, well, I guess it's still an issue, but it'll be addressed in a different way. Mm-hmm. If it goes that way, now I'm back to the hard line.
That is a very strong spiritual evolvement.
Well, I mention it because I feel like it's still unsettling for me.
Okay.
Because I like being a hardline guy. Yeah. And this is one of the things I like about logic, is that it really is deterministic cause and effect. Mm-hmm. This happens, then that happens. Mm-hmm. That happens, then this happens. Mm-hmm. 2 and 2, 4.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
And really, it's like, now there's more error bars in my view of relationships.
I see.
And I see it as a growth, but I also see it as something that I haven't all the way settled into.
Mm-hmm.
So
I see.
I feel myself getting better, but I'm not comfortable in the spot of being more mature. I'm like moving.
Yeah.
I'm kind of drifting, but I feel like I'm drifting in the right direction.
Yes.
And I do see it as a maturity thing.
I like that
because
a lot.
I realize it was a very emotional response.
Yes.
It wasn't actually
Primal.
that this is better. It was that I was angry.
Yeah.
And I had a right to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't identify with that part of myself. I don't want that to be who I am.
It becomes poison.
Yeah, I don't want that to be who I am.
I totally feel you.
Because then I'm just like the motherfucker who blamed me for the milk.
Yep. And this goes back to having that awareness too. Because you saying like, hey, I don't like this. That's another example of quote unquote the pain teacher, something you're just kind of uncomfortable with. And the fact that you're listening to yourself and you're like, hey, I don't think I like this. And you want to do something about it.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of life. That is reaching unconditional love, the Christ mode. They say like, you're not trying to be angry out here. Like this is a short life.
Yeah,
you're just
man.
trying to zen it out. And you know, so they say, Jesus Christ was not his name. Christ mode is like, literally a mode. Like Christ means unconditional love. So for example, if you ever see people with like the upside down cross or like 666 antichrist, like what they're really saying is you're just denying yourself unconditional love. So when you get to that point, when you always come back to that center and doing stuff like that, like, hey, I just want to be kind, not calibrating at a emotional response. Because of anger, you want to feel validated, justified.
That's all, man.
Yeah. And
I have a right to be mean.
Yes.
I have a right to be cruel.
Yes.
Was my attitude.
Exactly. So letting go of that, and none of us are perfect. Letting go of that, having the awareness, that's the beauty of life, man.
Yeah.
So I commend to all that.
But
yes.
it feels like weakness.
Oh, yes. And then you let go of it, and then you're in the next moment, and then what does this moment feel like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what this is all about. It's all just a dance. It's a really nice dance. Language is very particular. I feel like language also shapes our thought process. Well, of course it does.
100%.
But you know how I said environment changes our ambitions? Languages, yeah. But emotions are kind of more primal. So for example, pride as an emotion. They say it's a very low frequency to be on. You want to be calibrating on more like love, honesty. Like you want to let go of these things. So it's kind of like, as we evolve through life and as we get better, as learning the fundamentals, being better students, better teachers, blah blah blah. You're just kind of calibrating this radio and where your mind is. Just going back to the address between heaven and hell is between your head. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it's time to wrap things up with the most important question in the universe.
Oh my God, no, we can't do it.
Question in the universe.
3 or 2?
That's interesting. So if I have to choose one, does that mean the other one doesn't exist? Because you need 2. In order to have 2, you need 3. So, and 2 can know itself. But I feel like I want to lean towards that even side. But yeah, it makes me think of a lot of things. That's an interesting question.
3 or 2?
I feel like 3 is spicier, so I'm going with 3. That's what comes to my mind. Like 3 can mean what? Alternate dimensions? What does 3 mean? I need to know. That sounds spicy and pizzazz. 3. I'm going with 3. 2 sounds like, all right, I've seen the polarities of 2. I want to go somewhere else. I want to get neutral.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, thank you.